Hey. Hey y'all, it's Ayanna. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all my socials at _ringbells on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Y'all, as you can tell, I am not home again. I don't know if y'all watch, I don't know if I said it in the update video or my last story time about Electra, but I'm traveling for work. Like, I'm training right now, so I have to go back and forth. So right now I'm like an hour 15 away. Like, my job is like right around the corner. I brought my recording equipment with me. Like, I had all intentions to record and everything, and I wasn't sure I was going to because the room is very simple, very simplistic. I had to even move some furniture around to try to get some type of backdrop. If I look weird in the chair, not too much on me, but and also I'm like in the downtown city-ish area. So like 5 minutes ago, it was like fire trucks, police sirens, everything. I guess it was like some fire or something close, but I've tried to record this video like 6 or 7 times. So hopefully that's done. But yeah, as you can tell by the title, this is a story time about one of my sugar baby experiences. This was like requested by one of my friends. She'd been telling me to do a sugar baby story time for the longest. So I was like, why not? So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, y'all. So you already know, gotta get y'all the background, gotta set the scene. So for this particular story, I'm not really gonna give y'all a specific timeline, only because y'all know shit be overlapping. So I'm not trying to do too much. But story takes place a few years ago, couple years back, and I came across this girl. Right now, she doesn't need a name; she'll just be the girl. Now, I came across her and she was doing like sugar baby content or so on YouTube, just talking about her sugar baby experiences, trying to get a girl's like tips on how to, snag you a sugar daddy, or like a trick, if I don't even know if I can say that, but like a trick or whatever. And if you don't know the difference, we'll get into that a little bit further in. But yeah, so she was giving like the girls like the 411 on how to become a sugar baby. And of course, like most creators, even back then and now, she had like a paid subscription type of platform, I guess, because the information was like privileged, but information ain't privileged right now because I'm telling my story. But she had like this type of Discord-ish type platform. If you're not familiar with Discord, I think you can kind of like chat on there, post forums and stuff like that. I don't really know how to really explain it because I don't really remember the name of it. I just know it's set up like Discord, and I bet. So that's the only app that I can think of that it was like similar to. But y'all, I decided to go to the link in her bio and I clicked on it. I downloaded this app. I signed up. I think it was like, I don't even remember how much she was charging back then. Maybe like $25 a month. But I was just like, okay, why not? So I jumped into this platform and it was nothing but like girls. And I want to say it's probably like 1,700, 1,800-ish members in there. And as soon as I get on there, there's pictures of like money girls was getting shoes, bags, perfumes, all types of luxury stuff. So I was just like, oh, okay, like, let me see what this is about. So I started scrolling through some of the conversations. So the girls are putting up like their experiences, good and bad. So, I'm just scrolling through, getting my feet wet, seeing what's what. And then I came across like this one post that the girl who started the whole thing was just like, oh, well, these are the apps that, you can go on to, try to, feel your way around if you're not really trying to pay for like the more paid subscriptions and stuff. And so they did have paid subscriptions for like sugar baby websites and stuff like that. So you can kind of weed out the ones that are just like talking to talk and the ones that's like intentional about what they want. But girl, I just paid you $25 for this platform. I don't even know if I'm really going to stick around for real. I'm just curious. So I wasn't willing to, jump right into paying for a premium subscription. So I was like, you know what? So she had like, regular dating apps up there. Hinge, Tinder, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid, whichever one. She had all of those up there. Bumble. So I was like, okay. So basically, you were to download these apps, and a lot of the girls in there didn't use their real names. A lot of the girls lied about their professions, their names, where they were from. So I had to pretty much create like an alter ego. So my alter ego I created, her name was Savannah Bell. That was the name that I chose. Don't know why. Don't ask me why. But Savannah Bell was what I chose. And, you know, I'm trying to get tips and tricks from, you know, the other girls, like what they're putting on their profile. So, you know, you put stuff like, oh, like I like a generous man. I like shopping. I like to travel. You know, certain keywords, certain buzzwords where it's not just giving off like, hey, give me your money. Hey, buy stuff for me. You know, you don't want to come off as like a 304 or a high-end 304. And even though I know some of y'all probably gonna be like, oh girl, you was just a high-end 304. No, it was levels, right? So I was like, okay, let me see. So I made my little profile, had my pictures up there. Y'all, I was doing like literal photo shoots, had my tripod, was setting it up, had my friends taking pictures, you know, at restaurants, holding wine glasses, eating certain places, showing your nails and your jewelry, you know, little aesthetically pleasing stuff like that to just put on my profile. Stuff that I didn't even have on my regular Instagram, but I was only exclusively taking for my dating profile or whatever. So I ended up, you know, just making the profiles, going through different ones and just sorting through what I liked, what I didn't like. They recommended to, you know, change the age range because at the time, like I said, I ain't gonna tell y'all, but I was younger. I'm 29 now, but I was younger. So I was changing the age preference to like 45 and like 60. And I know you're probably like, ew, Ayanna. But listen, it wasn't no point in putting nobody in there my age. Like, for what? Like, I want somebody that was already established in their career, was making money, had money, was just living a completely different lifestyle. I didn't really know what to expect, but I was just, like I said, I was bored. I was curious. And I was just like, why not? Other girls is out here doing it. Why I can't do it? So I ended up going on there, and I remember it was this folder that they had. Like, I still have some of the pictures, so I'm gonna put like 2 pictures here. But these were the type of pictures. They had like a full photo album of pictures full of this that you can just save and like recycle. So for example, like y'all see the broken phone. So when you had the broken phone, you would take the picture, right? Save it. And then when you start talking to this guy, you know, you filling him out, whatever, and be like, oh my God, like I would love to talk to you, but I dropped my phone on the subway last week, or I dropped my phone when I was leaving work, and oh my God, look at my phone screen. Like, you want to be able to talk, you know, you're going to have to pay for me to get a new phone. I know you're probably like, girl, who will fall for that? But ninjas was falling for that. So I was like, well, this is crazy. Like, this is far-fetched. Another one, like you see the flat tire, like, oh, you know, I don't know how I'm going to get to work. Like, it was always like the damsel in distress type of thing, because not for nothing, a lot of the men wanted to be able to solve your problem, because I think it's just like a natural way or a natural feeling about a lot of the men that were like on these apps, that more so, okay, not necessarily the men that were on the apps, but the men that you know that you were trying to zone in on. Those are the ones that you would use the pictures for, especially if you have like a rapport going and you got the conversation down, and then you want to see if he'll feel bad for you. So you're like, oh, like, I don't know how I'm going to get to work. My mom is sick. I don't know how I'm going to get to my grandma. Look at my tire. Whole time that ain't even your car. Whole time that's not even your tire. Whole time you don't even have a car. But you send this picture so that way he can be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're dealing with this. No problem. What's your Zelle? What's your Cash App? What's your Apple Pay? Not really Apple Pay, because you know that's linked to your phone number and stuff, and a lot of girls didn't get their phone numbers out. Like, for example, me, I had a Google Voice number. If you know, you know. I had a Google Voice number that I had linked to my real phone, so that way when people would text or call it, it would come up on my actual phone, but it wasn't my actual number, if that makes sense. So a lot of girls was doing that. It was really like living in like a double life, like living a secret life. Like, I would tell men that like I was a bank teller, but I wouldn't tell them like what company. So for example, if I worked at Bank of America and I was a teller, I'd be like, yeah, I'm in banking. Oh yeah, what bank do you work at? I would say I worked at Wells Fargo, even though I worked at Bank of America, something like that. So, you know, small truths, but more so lies, because it wasn't even just like you trying to finesse them, but it was also like, I would need to protect myself. You don't want your full name, giving them your address, letting them know where you live, where you work, because again, a lot of the girls weren't trying to get long-term situations. Some of these girls had husbands. Some of these girls had boyfriends. Some of these girls were gay. You get what I'm saying? But your eye on the prize was just talking to a guy, getting him to, you know, build a relationship with you. You know, you got girls out here doing that shit for free now. Like, oh, well, in order for you to talk to me, you got to pay for this. And then niggas be on social media like, oh, y'all be doing this, you can't pay. We wasn't worried about those. We was worried about the ones that, you know, some of them were older, some of them might have been married, some of them were just lonely in a relationship, some of them were just looking for companionship. Of course, you had the real creepy ones that wanted the real sugar, but then you had the ones that were just like, I'm just looking for conversation. I just want somebody to text throughout the day because I have a busy schedule. I just want somebody that my wife just takes my money and spends it. She doesn't spend time with me. Like, will you be willing to have a conversation with me? I was looking for men like that. Not the men that was trying to hunch, but the men that were just like, let's just go out to dinner. Let's just talk. Like, let me get to know you. And then I would see what I could get out of it, right? And so I know, y'all, it could be dangerous, but, you know, you just put yourself in, like, safer-ish situations. Not everything is preventable, but the more you protect yourself, I feel like the better off you would be, right? So I'm on the app and I'm scrolling one day and I forget which little conversation the girls was having, but I came across this one girl. At that time, I don't know if I should say her name. At the time, she obviously was using a fake name. Her name was like, I don't want to say it because I don't think, I don't know if she's still doing it. Me and her, we stopped talking a long time ago, like, and we'll get to that all in this story time, but she had a name that was like a character name, like a, what is that girl? Like Laura Croft or something. She had a name like similar to that, but for the sake of the story time, we're just gonna call her Lizzie. So Lizzie was on there and me and her, she messaged me and I was just like, oh, okay, like, hey girl, how are you? So she was like, hey, I'm good. You know, you seem like a newbie. Like, you seem like you're fresh meat. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm just exploring. I'm just seeing what's what. And this is probably like after like a few days, a week or so of me being, you know, paying for the subscription. So I was like, you know, I'm just getting my feet wet. You know, I've been talking to a couple of guys. So she kind of like sort of took me under her wing. She was like 2 years older than me. So I'm like, how long have you been doing the whole, you know, sugar baby lifestyle? So she was like, oh girl, I've been doing it for 2 years. She was like, I haven't really nailed the one that I want. So I'm like, well, what do you mean, you know, the one that you want? And she was like, I want to be a spoiled girlfriend. So let me break that down for y'all. So like a spoiled girlfriend, instead of it just being like titled a sugar baby, a spoiled girlfriend was more like, you don't want to be having to talk to a whole bunch of guys. You want one guy that you can focus on that's going to give you the money, the bags, the clothes, the shoes, the lifestyle, everything that you want, the trips, but without having to keep talking and going on dates and all of this with a whole bunch of guys. So that was what she wanted. And she wanted it to feel like a relationship and he would just take care of her without really being like a high-end 304. Something like that. Something along those lines. So I was like, oh, okay. So she was like, yeah, I haven't landed my big fish yet. Like, I haven't caught my big fish yet. But, you know, so far, so good. I go on a couple of dates here and there. And I was like, you go on dates? And she was like, yeah. She was like, you wouldn't go on dates? She was like, girl, you're not really going to get nowhere. You're not going to really get the, you know, the motion that you're looking for if you don't, like, try to put yourself out there and, like, go on dates and stuff. Because they want to know, like, as much as you want to make sure they're not a catfish, they want to make sure you're not a catfish and, you know, just trying to scam them and stuff like that. Because, y'all, these wasn't, like, AI bots or nothing. These were, like, real-life men. They just had money. They was on dating apps, you know. And not for nothing, if I'm changing my age preference to 45 to 60-ish and you're coming up for me to, you know, swipe or whatever on, that means you had to adjust your preferences for you to be able to see me. And like I said, at the time, it was more than, at least it was more than 10 years, obviously, of a difference. So they knew what they was doing. They knew what they was looking for. And then, like I said, the profile, you look through the profile, you see those keywords, you see those buzzwords, and you decide if that's something that you want to, you know, pursue. So I told her, I was like, yeah, you know, I've been talking to guys, you know, here and there. She was like, no, girl, you need to really, you know, try to set up a date. You need to do something. So I was like, okay, you know, I just want to see, you know, what it's like first. So after maybe like 2 months, y'all, of me just, you know, conversing with men on these apps and stuff, you know, some of the conversations were, like I said, men just want to hunch, men just like, oh, you're a scammer, or you just want to get me for my money. I would just block them because, not you calling me out, but I would just block them. And then it was this one guy, right? What can we name him? I met him on Hinge, but he doesn't really need a name. He just gonna be Hinge Bae. So I met this man on Hinge and he was black. And to be honest with y'all, I was a little nervous to go on a date outside of black men. I don't know why. Like, obviously men are men and any situation could be dangerous, but I don't know. I felt a little bit level of safer security, if you want to call it that, with a black man, especially as like my first time going out, especially as like my first date going out. So meet Hinge Bae, and we just started, you know, talking on And y'all, these rooms are so like, I get very irritated by sound. Like, I don't like noise. Like, I like peace and quiet. I don't know why I would choose to stay at a hotel downtown. Like, the sirens, the doors slamming, the people in the hallways talking, kids. I hate it. I hate it so much. But anyway, so me and him start talking. You know, we're going back and forth, maybe for like, 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm like, oh, so, what do you do? What's this? What's that? So he's like, oh, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. So at the time, I'm like, orthopedic surgeon? I know that's the surgeon that works on, anything. Orthopedics is your feet, right? So I went and I was like, how much do orthopedic surgeons make? Because point of, trying to converse with you and talk to you if you can't afford what I'm about to start asking you for, what I'm about to start trying to, get from you per se. So I looked it up, y'all, easily clearing 6 figures. So I was like, okay, this might be a good first candidate to go on a date with, right? So we start talking. Of course, he's like, oh, okay, do you want to, would you mind, like, linking up? Do you want to, go out to dinner or whatever? So I'm like, yeah. And he was on the outskirts of Philly at the time. So I was like, yeah, I don't mind. And he was like, oh, I can come get you, or I can send a car for you or something like that. I'm like, a car? Now, he probably was just talking about like an Uber or something, but I was like, no. And that was one of the things that they had on the platform, like, certain rules, certain things you try not to do. Like, if you're going to be, wanting to go back to a man's house, I don't know why you would do that, but I can't say that because I did. But we gonna get there. So at the time, I was like, why would you go back to a man's house? Like, one girl, side story to the story. One girl on there, she had went on a date with this Russian man, and her friend was downstairs waiting in the car for her. Y'all, why he had this girl held hostage in his hotel room for like 6 hours, wouldn't let her leave. Her friend is calling her, and I'm like, why? And it's like, you don't want to call the cops because you don't want to make it seem like nothing, but you didn't do nothing. He was like, oh, you think I'm about to give you money and you about to leave, da-da-da. That situation was crazy. And then that's when the owner of the platform was just like, okay, girls, do's and don'ts. Like, don't do this, do this. You don't use your real name. Don't tell them, too much information about yourself. So, and another one, don't let them know where you live, obviously. So I'm not about to let you come pick me up. And don't be alone in the car with them. Because what if that child lock is on? What if you just end up with a damn Ted Bundy or something? Like, you never know. So I was just like, okay, no. That's one thing I wanted to make sure I kept, safe. So I was like, no, I don't mind. I can drive. I don't live too, super far. Y'all, I don't live nowhere near Philly, like, for real. So I was like, it's not super far. I can drive. So he was like, okay. So he picks, like, this steakhouse, like, somewhere in Philly. So I was just like, all right, cool. So we set up the date and everything. So I was like, all right, bet. So it was like maybe like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and we set the date up for like, I think either Friday night or Saturday night. Don't really remember. So I called Lizzie because me and her started talking. We had exchanged numbers at this point. So I was like, oh my God, girl, I got a date. She was like, no. She was like, Hinge Bay. I was like, yeah, because, you compare notes. You talk about this guy, and a lot of the girls will put screenshots of the men like, stay away from him, or he was a good one. So, y'all, please don't judge. Please don't judge. So, like, oh, stay away from this one. This one is safe to go out with. This one is cheap. This one to give you some money. This one want to talk about his kids and his wife all the time. This one just looking to hunch. You had different categories, and a lot of them were repeat offenders. I feel like a lot of them knew what they were doing because they knew it was something going on. But I called Lizzie, and I'm like, yeah, I got a date with Hinge Bag. So she was like, okay, what you gonna wear? So I'm like, I didn't even think about that. What do you wear to stuff like this? Getting all nervous. She was like, calm down. She was like, do you have a regular black dress? I was like, no. Like, the dresses I had, they weren't like sexy enough or like, really grown enough. Because like I said, y'all, I was a lot younger. So I was like, they weren't really giving. So she was like, all right, just go to a store and buy like a cute, simple, sleek, like black cocktail dress. As my mom liked to say, you always gotta have a little black dress in your closet. But I didn't. So y'all, I went right to Rainbow. Yeah, don't judge. So I went right to Rainbow, and I got me a little black dress. I already had some black heels, and I had a black purse to match. And then I think at the time it was like spring going into like summer. So it was like cool, but it wasn't like super hot yet. So I had on like this like long black coat to go with the black dress, and I had some jewelry. I had a wig. My hair was like long curled, a little like that. And I didn't do too much makeup, just a little light beat. So I'm on FaceTime with her after I get the dress, and now, like, obviously I got the dress, tried it on, everything, it looked good. So now fast forward to the day of the date. So I call her. It's that night, y'all. My stomach was like in my toes. Like, I was so nervous. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, do I want to do this? Like, is this safe? Is this dangerous? Like, I don't know if I should do this. And I get like that with dates anyway, but it's a lot different when you're talking to somebody that's your age, close to your age or something like that, that you're genuinely want to get to know, that you genuinely are looking forward to the date. This was like business. He was cool. I like talking to him, texting him or whatever, but at the end of the day, my eye was on the prize. This was business. So I was just nervous. So she was like, no, you'll be fine. Like, if you want, like, I'll talk to you, you know, your whole drive there. So I'm like, okay, cool. So he ended up hitting me up and he was like, you know, I'm going to be making my way to the restaurant soon. You know, when you get there, if I get there before you, you know, just tell them that you're there for a party of Hinge Bay, insert last name. So I was like, okay, cool. So y'all, I get dressed and, you know, I hit the road, get my gas. I hit the road and I'm making my way toward Philly. So I call Lizzie, me and her on the phone, we talking. She was like, you'll be fine. You know, just relax. You just remember, you know, drop certain phrases like, you know, my nails. She said your hair, you know, bills, you know, anything like that. Because obviously you told him you're a bank teller. He knows that you're not making no crazy amount of money anyway. So I was like, yeah, you're right. So, and y'all, my bad, y'all, had to get adjusted. So she was like, you know, just drop key phrases, you know, your hair, your nails, you know, something that you got going on, a bill, you know, anything like that, and just see how he takes it, you know. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I get there and it was a parking deck that was like almost like right next-ish to the restaurant. So I pulled in there. I was up on the second floor and I made sure I parked like almost like right close to the elevator. So I didn't have to walk far because I knew that I wasn't going to want him to walk me to my car, obviously, because I didn't want him to know what I drove. I didn't want him to see my license plate, anything like that. So I park and I get out and I text him. I was like, hey, you know, I'm walking in now. He was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm already seated. I only been here for like 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, bet. So I'm talking to Lizzie. I get inside. She was like, girl, good luck. You know, just let me know how it goes. If anything happens, you know, just text me. Now, Lizzie, she lived in Jersey. So again, I was in Pennsylvania. So she lived in Jersey. And I was just like, girl, you talking about call you if something happened. You can't get here. She was like, yeah, but I could call somebody else that can just in case something happens. But it's good that you're in public anyway. So I was like, okay. So I get off the phone with her. You know, I go in. I was like, oh, hey, you know, I'm here for a party of 2 for Hinge Bay, last name. She was like, okay, right this way. So I sit down, y'all. Restaurant is nice. Like, they had the fish tank with like the koi fish and like all like around the whole perimeter of the entrance. You had like the ceiling was crazy, the lighting was nice, the carpet, the tables. It was a very nice restaurant. So, you know, we sit down and, you know, I'm scoping it out before like I really walked up, and I could tell the hostess was just like, okay, you know, have a good night, you two. So I sit down and he wasn't a catfish. He was very, you know, he was attractive. So I was nervous at first, but he broke the ice and he was like, oh, how are you? You look beautiful. And I was just like, oh, thank you. You know, I sit down and we just start talking and I was like, oh, did you have a chance to order? He was like, no, like I told you, I just got here. So, you know, nothing yet. You know, she should be, you know, here soon. So I was like, okay. So he was like, you know, how was the drive? So I was like, it was okay. You know, it was fine. And he was like, you know, I could have just sent for you, you know, a car. You know, I could have came and got you. I was like, no, it's fine. He was like, yeah, but you're not allowing me to be a gentleman. I was like, yeah, but, you know, it's the first date. You know, I don't mind. I was like, you know, safety reasons. And he was like, no, yeah, I understand. I don't want you to think like I'm a psycho or anything. And I was like, yeah, right. So waitress ends up coming and he ordered like, y'all, this damn near expensive ass bottle of wine. Don't know why, but I was about to be drinking that because I had like probably a 45-minute drive back. So I was just like, you know, like I didn't mind it. Like I'll take a, you know, a glass or two, but nothing too crazy. So he gets this expensive ass bottle of wine. And then, you know, he ordered appetizers. Don't ask me what he ordered, but I didn't want to order anything crazy. Y'all know I'm white chicks. And he was like, damn, little lady, you sure can put it away? I wasn't trying to be on that. I was trying to be real dainty, you know, breaking stuff apart that didn't need to be broke apart just because you want to look as petite and dainty as you could. But yeah, I think I got like salmon and like some vegetables or something like that. So y'all, the conversation's flowing and we're just talking. So he was like, you know, where's the last place you traveled? So I just lied, y'all, because I couldn't think of nothing off the top of my head. So I was just like, Aruba. He was like, Aruba? He was like, oh, I've been there. It's really nice. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I was like, well, where's the last place you've been? He was like, oh, the Amalfi Coast. Y'all, I was like, really? The Amalfi Coast is one of like my dream destinations. And that's not a lie. It really, to this day, it still is. So he was like, yeah, the Amalfi Coast. Like, he was like, it was beautiful. It was nice. It was peaceful, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, that's so good. And he was like, but you like to travel, right? I was like, yeah. He was like, well, maybe I got to take you on a trip one day. I was like, maybe. Never was going to happen. So he was like, okay, so do you like being a bank teller? I was like, you know, it's okay, you know, it sort of, you know, pays the bills. So now I got Lizzie in my head. So I'm like, yeah, you know, it sort of pays the bills. You know, I'm looking into, you know, something else. I might go back to school, you know, things like that. And he was like, oh, he was like, well, you know, if you don't mind my asking, how much do bank tellers make? And I was like, oh, I'm only at like 15, 16 an hour, which was a lie. But I was like, I'm only at like 15, 16. And he was like, oh, wow. I was like, yeah. I was like, you see my nails, like I need a fill. And I should have got my nails done, y'all, but I just wanted to see how it was gonna, you know, play out. And he was like, oh, we could definitely take care of that. I was like, gotcha. So then I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, do you ever get like the matching, you know, do you ever get your toes to match? And I was like, yeah, you know, sometimes. And he was like, oh yeah, we can definitely take care of that. So I was like, okay, y'all. So again, the conversation was just flowing. Like we started talking about sports, we started talking about movies. He was really cool. So, you know, we pretty much sort of kind of were getting through the date. It was like close to, you know, her about to bring the check. So he was like, oh, well, can I see your purse? And it was very weird. So I was just like, my purse? So I was like hesitant. He's like, I'm not gonna do nothing. Like, you think I'm gonna take your purse and run away? I was like, no, because I just told you I only make $15, $16 an hour. Ain't nothing in here anyway. So I give him my purse, y'all. This man pulled out a white, y'all thought it was a bug or something, but the fan is like blowing the receipt anyway. So I get I give him my purse and he has a white envelope. So all I see him do is unzip my purse. He ain't looking at it or nothing. He unzipped my purse, took the envelope, put it in there, zipped it back up. He said, here you go. He was like, you know, I already had that ready for you. He was like, but you know, you could check that, you know, when you get back to your car, when you get home or anything. I just wanted to make sure, you know, you were, you know, taken care of since you drove out here and everything like that. So I'm thinking like, this man probably gave me some damn gas money and nail money. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm not doing this again. But I thought it would have been rude to sit there and be like, let me open this up and start counting it out. But I was just like, you know, anxious. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we're talking, we get through the date, and he was like, you know, I would really love to see you again. Like, we should do this again. I had a good time. And I was like, you know, me too. He wasn't married. He didn't have any kids. He was like, you know, I've been in school a good portion of my life. And he said, then I was doing a residency. I think he was doing a residency or something in Texas. He was like, he only was living out there for like maybe 3 or 4 years. So I was just like, okay. He was like, yeah, so I never really had time to really settle down and everything. He was like, but you know, where I'm at in my life and where I'm at in my career, you know, maybe I'm looking to settle down now and, you know, travel a little bit more, you know, see something and, you know, get out in life. So I was like, no, I completely understand that. So we finish up with the date, you know, he pays and we start walking out. So he was like, you sure? He was like, can I walk you to your car? I was like, no, it's fine. I'm good. He was like, you sure? He was like, you see where we at? You know, it's a little sketchy. I was like, it is, but I was like, you know, I'm fine. So he was like, okay, well, you know, get home safe. He was like, you know, just let me know, you know, when you get home. So I was like, okay, cool, I will. So I waited for him to like walk across. I guess he parked somewhere around the corner or something on the street. I don't know. But he ended up walking across the street. So when he was like a little bit out of distance, far enough away, then I started walking into the parking deck. And the elevator was right there. Got on the elevator, went upstairs. And I told y'all I parked right next to the elevator when I got off on the second floor. So I get in my car. I lock the door. I was like, let me see. So y'all, I open up that purse and pull out that envelope. I start counting. That man gave me $1,000. A band, a rack, whatever you call it from wherever you're from. And I was just like, y'all, I thought that man was going to give me, I don't know why. I know y'all probably like, Ayanna, why he put $100 in my envelope? I don't know. Men are weird. So I was just like, what the hell? So I called Lizzie immediately. I'm like, girl. She's like, what happened? You okay? I was like, yeah. She said, how did the day go? I was like, he just gave me $1,000. He took my purse at the dinner table, put an envelope in it, and gave me $1,000. And she was like, what? Oh my God. And I was like, how much was the most you ever got on a date? That girl got like $3,000 on a date, but she had went on like maybe 4 or 5 dates. Like she was like vetting him for real. Like she was trying to put her hooks into him, but that's a story for another time. So she was like, oh, Ayanna, that's so good, but you know, get on the road and start getting home. So I'm like, all right, bet. So she talks to me my whole way home. We just like geeked. We just talking, we laughing, da. So she was like, well, we need to get together. Mind you, I have never met Lizzie at this point. So she's like, we need to get together. We need to do something. We need to hang out. I was like, yeah, you know, we will. But I wasn't really trying to hang out with too many girls. Like, because I didn't really know what type of timing y'all was on. If y'all was going to get me into a situation that I really wasn't ready for. Because they were being like alone in like private situations with men. And I just was not feeling that at the time. Right. So I get home. I let him know that I got home, and he was like, you know, like I said, I really was serious about traveling. I really was serious about seeing you again. I was like, yeah, of course, like we could definitely set something up. So y'all, fast forward like another 2 weeks. Now at this point, I'm on that app, like on that platform every single day. And the girls will tell you like, post your wins, post this. I ain't really like doing that. Like I post my wins, and then of course the girls will be like, oh, who is it? Who is that? Like da da da. No, this mine. You know how like the girls be gatekeeping where they get their stuff from? That was me. Like I wasn't about to put y'all onto nothing. And then on top of that, I kind of felt bad because he was a decent guy. Like he was really nice. And the energy that some of them girls in there was giving was just like, oh, I'm trying to use him as a trick. I just want to get nail and hair money out of him. And me, I'm like, no, I see the bigger picture. Now I see what Lizzie's talking about. Like I'm trying to aim higher. I wasn't trying to aim as high as her, but like, you know, more than a trick, but less than a girlfriend, basically. So a few weeks go by, not even like a few weeks, like 2 weeks or so go by, and we set up another date. This time he ended up coming out by me, and it was like maybe like a 30-minute drive from where I live at. So he came out here by me, and we went to like, what restaurant? I ain't gonna tell y'all the restaurant, but it was more like a high-end-ish restaurant in like my area. I don't know like where y'all cities are at. You know how like you got, say, Rodeo Drive, or you have like, I don't even know, y'all. Like different cities have different like mall-ish type areas where you have restaurants, you have stores, you have like the expensive stores, stuff like that. It was like that. So we met out front this time, and he was like, oh, like this time it was getting hotter. So he's like, you want to sit outside? I was like, sure. So we sit outside, we vibing, we talking, and this time I had my nails done and got my hair done, everything. But the bulk of that money, I literally spent it on, I still had some of it left, but I basically spent it on bills. And I just got my nails, my hair, and my feet done. So he was like, oh yeah. He was like, see, that's how I would want you to look. He was like, that's what I like. He was like, you know, your feet done, had my toes out, nails was done. So he was like, oh, you look really nice. So we was just kicking it. So he was like, you know, what are you really looking for? And I was like, damn, I was not prepared for that question. So he was like, you know, what are you looking for? And I was just like, in terms of what? He was like, you know, in terms of relationship, you know, what do you want out of life? Like, do you want kids? Do you want this? Do you want that? Like, do you want to be a bank teller forever? And I told him, I was like, no, I really don't. But at the time, y'all, I was young. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, you know how like you just get to a point in life where you're just going with the flow of shit. Like I was out partying. I was doing a lot more back then than obviously I do now. So I was just like, oh, that's a good question. Like, I really don't know. Right now, I'm just kind of going with the flow, just seeing where the wind takes me. And he was like, no, I understand that. You know, you are pretty young. You got, you know, a lot of life, you know, ahead of you. And I was like, yeah. So he was like, well, how would you feel about, you know, being exclusive? So I'm like, I didn't really want to say yeah because, y'all, I was still texting, you know, talking to men on, you know, Hinge and Bumble and all the other different apps. So I was like, sure. Don't judge. So I was like, yeah, I don't mind being exclusive. He was like, okay, cool. So y'all, I had him in my hand. So after that date, he gave me like $1,500 that time. So I was like, all right, like I can get used to this. And now granted, I was talking to Lizzie, and Lizzie was like, I mean, you could be getting more. Like, you know how long it's probably going to take you to probably really start getting more money. And I'm like, yeah. She was like, nah, you need to, you know, still keep talking to other people. Now, mind you, I still had certain guys, I guess those are ones you could call tricks. That was like the hair and nail type men that wasn't really, like they was getting money, but they wasn't really getting money. So they couldn't really afford to give you nothing more besides nail money, hair money, buy you food, little stuff like that. Like they not about to be having you walking through Louis and picking out whatever you want. Like they just wasn't on that type of vibe. That's where Lizzie was trying to get. That's where the owner of the platform, that's where she was. And like she put herself through college off of being a sugar baby. So I was like, yeah, I understand. But, you know, I was like, I like it right here. Like, you know, because what girls is out here just getting handed bread in envelopes? I don't know too many. And I was like, you know, I'm cool right here. You've been doing this for 2 years, so I see you're more experienced. But I'm like you call fresh meat. So I'm not really trying to do too much. So she was like, no, I understand. So me and him, y'all, we kept talking again. For like maybe like 2 months or so. Like we just kept the flow going. We would chill certain times. I was on FaceTime with him. He was sending me money to get my car worked on. And some of that shit I wasn't really lying about. Like, listen, my car got to get inspected. He was sending me money for that. Oh, I'm at work. I'm hungry. He was sending me money for that. Oh, it's time for me to get a fill. He was sending me money for that, and so forth and so on. So then I'm talking to Lizzie one day, and she was like, okay, you know the premium apps that she be telling us to get on and stuff. And some of them apps, y'all, was like upwards of like $50 to like $125 for like memberships to get into like these exclusive, you know, networking circles or whatever you want to call it. And some of them had a wait list. Like they wouldn't even let so many sugar babies on versus so many sugar daddies on there. So they had to vet you. You had to like, some of them you had to do like audition videos. Some of them was just too much. And I was like, I don't want to pay for it anyway. So she was like, just do one with me. So I'm like, okay. So y'all, I get on the app with her and we both make our profiles and stuff. And y'all, some of them men had money. Like, and I know y'all probably like, oh girl, but you don't really know if it's true or not. If they had their real names up there, I would go right to LinkedIn and search up their names and search up the profession to see exactly everything that they have on their dating profile, make sure it matched in real life. You get what I'm saying? So you had head fund managers, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, you know, chefs that they own, like, what is it? Not chefs of their own restaurant, but like they owned restaurants and restaurant chains. They just different caliber positions, career choices, whatever you want to call it, doctors, surgeons, all types of stuff. So I was like, oh, this is a completely different world. So y'all, I come across this one man and we're gonna name him Walter. So Walter, he was black also, and he was an architect. So at the time I'm like, I don't know how much architects make, right? So I hit him up first and we just started, you know, I was just like, oh, you know, I find you very attractive. I don't even remember what I said, y'all, so whatever I said. But I was just like, you know, I find you attractive, whatever. And he was just like, oh, you know, I feel like you're beautiful too, you know, so what brings you here? And I just told him, I was like, you know, I'm just looking for someone that's, you know, more mature, someone that can, like, you know, afford their lifestyle and afford the one that, you know, that I'm living. Because at the time I was like, this is a different type of men that these are a different type of men versus than what we've been dealing with, you know, on the regular little dating apps. So I was like, you know, I'm just looking for somebody that, because he know what he's there for. You're on a site that's literally for sugar babies. So I was like, you know, I'm just looking for somebody that can, you know, give me the lifestyle that I want. And he was like, no, I completely understand that. So I asked him, I'm like, well, what do you do? He was like, oh, I'm an architect in a very big city. So I was like, oh, like what? He was like, you know, I'm in control of designing and something manufacturing the bridges and like I don't know, y'all, like the functionality of the bridges or something like that. Don't get me the line. I don't really remember. But I was like, oh, okay. Went right on Google. How much do architects make in blank city? And he was like, well, I looked and it said like he was damn near making, if not the same, more than Hinge Bay. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, oh, you know, are you married? He was like, no, I've been divorced for the last like 12-ish, 15-ish years. I don't really remember. So I was like, oh, do you have kids? He was like, yeah, I have 2 grown sons. One just graduated college. Another one, I believe he was in like he was like in a doctorate pre-intern program, something like that. And I was like, oh, that's nice. I'm like, well, where do you live? Y'all, he lived in like a high-rise brownstone type thing overlooking the city. Just like I said, when I think back on it, I'm like, why didn't I continue this lifestyle? But yeah, that's what he did. So of course I went right to LinkedIn, and everything that he was saying that he did, it literally matched. I found this man on Facebook, saw pictures of his kids. I wanted to see everything. So y'all, I ain't gonna lie, when I started talking to Walter, I kind of fell back from Hinge Bay. And I know you're probably like, girl, you should have kept both going. But again, y'all, I had my own real life I had to live. I had my own real friends. I had work. And like I said, Hinge Bay was all the way out near Philly, which was like the same distance in the opposite direction as to from where Walter lived. So it was hard to try to balance both. And I'm like, I feel like I can get more from Walter than I can from Hinge Bay, because now I see what Lizzie's talking about. Like, it's going to take him a long time, because like you can tell like he really wants to date you. Eventually he's thinking that like we're in a relationship with the whole exclusivity thing. So I'm thinking he was talking about like exclusive talking. He was talking about exclusively dating. So eventually y'all know that sugar was going to want to come. And maybe if I would have given him the sugar, that's when the 5,000, the bags and all of that would have been rolling in. But like, was I willing to do that? No, I wasn't. So I'm like, I might as well start all over and start talking to somebody else. And then maybe I can get more off the top from Walter. So I started falling back from Hinge Bay. So the first date that I went on with Walter, I actually let him send me a car to the city. And that was only because I wasn't driving all the way to the city because who wants to do that? So I let him send me a car. I don't even know how much it was because he had to come all the way to PA, but obviously I didn't give them my real address. I gave them like an address in like this cul-de-sac of houses, like 5-ish, 10-ish minutes away, and I just left my car parked over there. He sent the car, and he had a driver. He wasn't in the car, obviously, but rode me all the way to the city. And I know you're probably like, Ayanna, you just violated your own rule. I did. I don't know. I was living very delusional, like, I don't know. So get to the city, this restaurant even nicer. And then obviously New York is very much a different city than Philly is. It's just bigger. It has way more going on, way more restaurants, way more experiences, everything like that. So get to the city, the restaurant was like, I would not be able to afford to go there. Probably now I probably wouldn't be able to afford to go there. So I completely felt out of my element, but I ran back almost similar, the same outfit, but minus, and I ran back like the similar outfit, but at this point it was like a little bit closer into like the end of the summer going into the fall. So it was getting a little bit cooler out, but the same outfit was probably the same. I remember I had on a black dress, black shoes, because it's just easier to do it that way. So I get there. Of course, he's already waiting at the table. I come in, I sit down. He stands up. He pulls my chair out, gives me a hug. I'm like, oh, okay, how are you? He was like, I'm good. How was the ride? Like, was it weird? Was it awkward? I was like, no, it was fine. Like, thank you for sending, the car to come get me. He was like, no problem. I want to take care of, the things that I value. And at first it was like red flag. And y'all, I don't have my red flags. But I was like, red flag. Like, I'm not yours, but we'll see how the night goes. So we just get to talking, and he's talking about his kids, his sons. He's talking about his ex-wife, not in a bad way. They were really cool. He's talking about his wife. He's talking about his kids. He's talking about like his job and how stressful it is, and like the timelines and deadlines and projects and all of this money that he's responsible for. And it was very interesting. Like, I don't know. I was completely out of my element because I'm like, I don't know what this man is talking about. It sounded important, but I'm like, I ain't know. He's like, what do you do again? I'm like, oh, I'm a bank teller. He was like, okay, like, how do you like it? I was like, oh, it's okay. I was like, you like your job? He was like, yeah, it's really rewarding. Like, I like seeing projects be done and complete, and then I know that I had a part in making sure that it got completed. So it's definitely really rewarding. And I was like, okay, I like that and stuff. So he was like, okay, so why, like, just off the rip, he was like, so tell me the truth. Like, why are you really on that app? Like, what are you really looking for? And I was just like, I'm really looking for somebody to take care of me. You want me to be honest? Like, at this point, we already here. Like, we either going to get up and walk out. I don't know. So he was like, see, I like honesty. He was like, a lot of those girls on here, they're just fake. Like, oh, I'm just looking to date. Oh, I'm just looking for someone to, marry. I'm looking for love. He was like, and you're being completely honest with me. He was like, I'll be honest with you. He was like, I'm not really into the whole physical thing. I'm really just looking for, companionship. I like talking to you, he didn't say vibe, but lack of a better term. He's like, your vibe seems really well. You seem really down to earth. And I'm just really looking forward to just getting to know you. I don't really want anything. There's no strings attached. I really just want to see, where this goes. And I was like, me too. So we eat and everything. And of course he tried it. He was like, oh, you want to, come back to my house. You can see what it looks like. You can see the view of the city. He's showing me pictures on his phone of the city from like when he first moved in there. And I was like, do you own it? He was like, yeah, I do own it. Like, I bought it. So I was just like, okay. I was like, maybe one day. He was like, oh, what, the date not going well? I was like, the date's going fine, but I'm a lady, I'm not going to be going back to your house.
But I don't take nothing off. I'm a lady.
He's like, that's fine. Got his driver, or I honestly think it was a driver, because I don't know how because it was the same damn driver that took me back home. The driver didn't really talk. Like, he said a couple of words, and y'all, I went right back home, called Lizzie, and she was like, wow, like, but this time he didn't give me like cash in an envelope. But when I got back home, I guess he just wanted to see if I was going to be mad, I guess, that he didn't give me anything, like testing me or something, I guess. I don't know. But we just kept texting, and, I never mentioned the money or anything. Y'all, that next morning, I woke up to a Cash App, right? Cash App was like maybe $850, $900. So I was like, I could have just kept Hinge Bay. Now, mind you, I was still talking to Hinge Bay, and he was trying to set up a date, but he was starting to get a little agitated because he was just like, oh, I thought we were exclusive. I wanted to get together. I don't have, surgery. I'm going to be going on vacation, but I just kept looking for excuses. I was like, no, I got to work. Oh, no, I got to study. I told you I'm trying to get back into school. Oh, no, I got to do this for my mom. Like, I was just lying. Like, I was just, like, falling back from him. I don't know. And I don't necessarily want to say I got a weird vibe off of Hinge Bay, but like I said, the aggressive, I don't want to say aggressiveness, but like the subtle aggressiveness, like you can tell that it was going to slowly start increasing. And I was just like, yeah, I don't really want, parts of that. Like I'm kind of cool off of that, right? So we like fast forward probably like another month or so, I'm still talking to Walter, still hadn't been to his house, and we hadn't seen each other anymore since then. But at the time, I wasn't really talking to Hinge Bay. Like I said, I kind of fell off, and then Hinge Bay texted me one day, and again, Google voice number. He was like, this is probably not even your real number, Savannah. And I was like, question mark. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, oh, so you just got me for my money. You wanted just some free food out of me, but you weren't. He was like, clearly you didn't want to be exclusive. I was like, again, question mark. What are you talking about? He was like, I know that that's not your real name. I don't know what your real name is, but I know that's not your real name. I know that you were trying to scam me. Y'all, I just blocked him because I'm not going to get nothing else out of you. And I guess the jig is up now, so I don't have no real reason to continue this conversation. I was about to cut you off anyway. I pretty much fell back and the conversation been dwindled out, so I don't really know what you're going for. So anyway, I just kept talking and putting all my attention into Walter. And then one night I went out with Lizzie, and we finally had linked up because me and Lizzie hadn't linked up. We had never linked up from the time, and y'all know I start getting passionate. I start talking too fast, so let me slow down. But from the time I had first got on that platform, me and Lizzie hadn't ever, like I told you, we had never met. So all of these months later, damn near almost a year later, she was like, girl, we need to get together. Like, you're from Jersey. You be coming up here all the time, and I never get to see you. Let's go out. Let's do something on me. So I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up driving to Jersey, parked my car at my grandmother's house. She came and got me, and we went out. And I think she had me up in, like, Passaic or something like that. It was, like, up near New York. I want to say it was Passaic. So she had me up there, and we was just vibing. She was like, we're going to go freestyle. So I'm like, freestyle? Like, what's freestyling? So freestyling is when like you just go to like a high-end bar or high-end restaurant, and you kind of just sit there, and most men that go there, like I said, got money, married, rich, finance bro, whatever you want to call them, and they would just be in there. So they see a girl, sitting there by herself, looking cute dress on, they want to come over and start conversation. So she was like, let's go do that. It sounded fun to me, so I was like, okay, cool. So y'all, we go to this bar. I don't know. It was like I was about to say a gentleman's club. It wasn't a gentleman's club, but it was like one of those exclusive type bars. I think the men had to pay like a fee or something to like be a part of the club or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know how Lizzie got us in there, but she had us in there. We sitting at the bar. We had our little drinks or whatever. And sure enough, maybe after like 20-ish minutes or so, these two guys walk over, and he was like mixed. I don't remember. I really can't say what he was. One was white and one was like a little mixed. So they just come over to us. They just start sparking conversation. They're like, oh, who are you guys here with? And we're like, no, we just wanted to, get out for a night, have a good time. And they're like, yeah, we don't really see, too many, beautiful women in here. And we're like, thank you. So they was like, can we sit down with y'all? So we're like, okay, cool. They was like, okay, let's move to a bigger table. Y'all take us to this bigger table. It was like a rounded booth, big old round table. So we're just sitting there. Me and Lizzie sit next to each other. Them two were sitting like over here. So they were like, okay, where you guys from? So, we lying. We just talking, having a conversation going. So they were like, okay, well, we should exchange numbers. So she's giving me that look like, told you, cha-ching. So we exchanged numbers. Me and her both had Google Voice numbers. So when they texted us, it pinged right to our regular phones. So we texted back like, okay, yeah, my name's Savannah. Her name is Lizzie. And we went about it that way. So they were like, okay, well, we should get together, another time, blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay, mind you, when we were sitting there at this table, they had ordered like drinks and stuff. So at this point, y'all, I was like, okay, Lizzie, I'm ready to go because I'm getting a little, don't want to start doing too much. She's like, okay, cool. So we end up leaving. We get back to her car, and Walter texts me, right? So Walter's like, oh, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, oh, that's so funny. I'm actually out in Passaic with one of my friends. And he was like, well, what if I sent a car to come get you? I was like, well, I don't know if my friend would want to come. And he was like, well, no offense. I wasn't inviting your friend. I was just inviting you. I would send a car to come get you because send me, what address are you at? So I sent him the address. And he was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll definitely, if you want to, I'll send my driver to come get you. So I was like, okay, cool. So I told Lizzie, she was like, okay, cool, you know, do you want me to take you back to your grandmother? And I was like, no, I don't want him obviously pick me up from my grandmother's house. So she was like, all right, so I'll just wait here for you, like wait here with you. So we just sat in her car, we were just listening to music, we were just talking. And next thing you know, like maybe 20-30 minutes or so, his car pulls up. So I tell her bye, I get in the car, and this time it takes me to Walter's house. Y'all, pull up in front, and it was like I said, he lived in like a brownstone, but like you can literally see, I don't remember even what bridge it was, y'all, don't even get me to lying, but you can see the bridge. So I was just like, what the hell? So go inside, like he already was damn near like waiting at the door. So I go inside, y'all, this man had the most beautiful, it would probably look like an Airbnb that like somebody rich would just rent out and like people will book it to take pictures. It literally looked like that. And like I said, he was an architect, so he had all of this like intricate art and like sculptures and stuff around. And I'm like, you got me here. I was like, where are your kids at? He's like, I told you, my one son, he just left to go back to school because like I said, y'all was going into the fall. So he's like, he's going back to school. And the other one, I don't know where he's at. He's probably at his mom's house, or he's probably, you know, out with his friends or something, but he's not coming back tonight. So I was like, okay, cool. He was like, would you mind spending the night? And I was like, I'm definitely not going to spend the night, but when I start feeling tired, I'm probably going to head out. So he was like, okay, that's fine. Y'all, we stayed up probably for like 4 or 5 hours just talking, sipping wine and just talking. And it felt really good. So he was like, oh, you never even said thank you for the money I sent you. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. I was like, I don't know what you expect me to do with only $850. He was like, you could do a lot with $850. And I was like, what? He was like, I don't know. Like, what do girls like to do? Like, you could go shopping with that. You can go get your hair done. I said, by the time I get my hair done, my nails done, my feet done, my wax, my eyebrows, my lashes, by the time I get all of that done and buy like a purse or buy something. Y'all hear the sirens? My bad, y'all. But we just gonna get through the story. So I was like, by the time, you know, I get through all of that, the money's gonna be gone. And he was like, you know what? Okay, we can take care of that. He was like, but we can take care of that tomorrow. So I'm like, why is it always tomorrow? Why can't it be now? He was like, come on, patience. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So y'all, we start vibing and stuff, right? Then this man gets a text. But the way he looked at the text was very suspicious to me, right? So I don't know about y'all, like when y'all lit, if y'all be a little bit more intuitive, like you just pay attention to more stuff. And maybe I was just on my P's and Q's because I'm in this man's house. This is something that I always advised against, that I was advised to not do anyway. But I don't know why, I just felt safe with him. Like, I don't know. So it was the way he picked up this phone. It was like, he put it back down. So I was like, oh, is everything okay? And he was like, yeah. He was like, you know, it's just one of the guys that's working on the project with me. You know, I'll get back to him another time. So I'm like, okay. So we just kept vibing. So he's like, do you want to see the house? I'm like, yeah. So he has me walking through the house. He shows me his son's room. Son's room is probably damn near almost as big as somebody's apartment. Like somebody's 1-bedroom apartment was damn near his son's room. So we get to his room. This man had like a damn near a California king size bed, a big old walk-in closet, his and her sinks. Like he had heated floors in the bathroom. He just had so much stuff. And I'm just like, I see what Lizzie was talking about with being the spoiled girlfriend, because what? So y'all, at this point, it was probably like when y'all, these sirens are pissing me off. Oh my gosh. So it was probably like the time I left Lizzie, it probably was like maybe like 11 o'clock at night. So by the time I got to him, it was probably like around 12-ish. Like I said, we were talking for hours. I remember I was leaving when the sun was coming up, right? So he got his driver, and driver drove me back down to my grandmother's house. And I got my car, and I ended up driving all the way back to Pennsylvania to go home. I crashed, like I literally just passed out as soon as I got in the house. So passed out, as soon as I woke up, Cash App notification, that man sent me $2,500. And I was like, yep, I'm gonna keep. So after that, y'all, me and him was vibing for honestly like another 6-ish or so months, right? Until the next time I went to this man's house. So I get to his house, and I know this story time is probably super long, but y'all love the long ones anyway, and we just talking. So this last time I get to his house, and I'm walking in there like, okay, I know where everything is. You know, nobody was there, everything like that. So I walk in, And, you know, he greets me. He was in the middle of cooking. He was a good cook. So he's in the middle of cooking, and he was like, you know, just make yourself comfortable. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I sit down on the couch. I'm just vibing. I'm scrolling on my phone and stuff, right? Then he was like, okay, I'll be right back. I just got to run upstairs. So I'm like, okay, bet. So he runs upstairs, and then his doorbell rings. Like, maybe, like, he's upstairs for like 2 minutes. His doorbell rings. So I'm like, that's not my house. I'm not about to answer the door. Then I hear keys jingling. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God, is one of his sons home? Like, this is going to be awkward because, and y'all, if I didn't mention it before, Walter was probably like 52, 53, something like that. So I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, who the hell is opening the door? So I'm thinking it's his son. So I'm like trying to prepare myself. Who walks in? An older-ish woman, like probably like around his age. So I'm looking, I'm like, what woman would have keys to your house? Like, what the hell is going on? So a woman walks in. So she's looking at me. I'm looking at her. She was like, hi. And I was like, hi. She was like, who are you? So I was like, oh, my name is Savannah. And she was like, Savannah. She was like, are you here for, you know, an internship? Like, what's going on? And I was like, no, I'm here for Walter. You know, we've been seeing each other for a little while, because at that point, the wheels were turning, but they weren't like really turning. So I'm like, is this his wife that you said you've been divorced from for the last 15 or 12, 15 years? Like, what? Next thing you know, he's coming downstairs, and he looked like a deer in headlights, like just stuck. So I'm like, I'm looking at him. I'm still sitting on the couch. I'm just looking at him. And she was like, Walter, what's going on? And he was like, oh, like, I wasn't expecting you back until tomorrow. So I'm looking at him. So at this point, I'm getting uncomfortable. So I'm like starting to shift, you know, I'm starting to shift, you know, like start grabbing my bag slowly. He was like, no, Savannah, like, you're good, you're good. And she was like, what do you mean she's good? Like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? She was like, what happened to, we're supposed to be working things out. So what happened to that? What happened to traveling to Italy? What happened to that? Like, I go on vacation for work, and then I come back, and you have someone half your age sitting in my living room? And I'm like, oh, I was like, you live here? She was like, we're transitioning. We're in the middle of transitioning. She was like, but we're working on preparing our marriage, and you're preventing that. I was like, you know what, ma'am? I'm so sorry. He told me that you guys have been divorced for 15 years and that he doesn't talk to you, and you guys are just cool for your sons. I apologize. I mean, no disrespect. And she was like, yeah. But she was so nasty, y'all. Like, she was so nasty. She was like, yeah, like, I think it's best that you leave. So Walter is still telling me, like, no, Savannah, I don't want you to go. And she was like, either she's going to go or I'm going to go. I was like, I'm not going to be here. Because at the time, y'all, like I said, I'm not trying to mess up nobody. I'm not trying to be no homewrecker. Like, I'm not trying to mess up your marriage. Like, because I'm not going to marry you. What I'm getting from you is what I'm cool with. We weren't hunching. You giving me money. You whining and dining me. You got me at nice places. Your house is nice. Like, you helping me pay my bills and buy nice stuff for myself. So that's all I really wanted out of you. And that's all I felt like at that time still, that's all I wanted out of you. So I'm not about to be in the middle of whatever this is. So she was like, yeah, I think it's best you leave. And she was like, either she leaves or I leave. And I was like, no, it's fine. But I looked at him. I was like, you need to, you know, get me home. So she's like, get you home. And he was like, yeah, you know, I send Charlie. Like, I send Charlie out there to you know, to take her home and, you know, back and forth. She was like, I'm sorry, where do you live? I was like, oh, I live in Pennsylvania. She's like, you have Charlie, and y'all, I don't want to yell, but she's like, you have Charlie driving her from here all the way to Pennsylvania and back and forth. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? When do you have time to do this? So now the wheels are really turning. So I'm like, that's who probably was texting him when that first night, you know, that first time I went to his house. So I'm like, okay, like, now it's all starting to make sense. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So he was like, I guess he grabbed his phone and he texted Charlie or whoever and was like, you know, Ayanna's going to be ready to go or whatever. So, you know, you can just pull up around front. So I was like, you know, again, I'm walking out. He's trying to talk to me. And honestly, y'all, as I'm telling it, it really gives me flashbacks to Jordan and Delulu Delilah when he was trying to stop me from leaving his house while Delilah was screaming and cursing him out. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to remove myself from this situation. So as I'm walking out, like, she was almost like trying to like block me from leaving for a second. So I'm looking at her.
Y'all better check this bitch.
I was like, ma'am, again, I mean no disrespect. I'm trying to exit. You know, you can handle this with your husband, ex-husband, whatever it is. And she was like, no, I just need you to know how disrespectful you are. I said, I'm not disrespectful because I didn't know about you. I said, your husband is disrespectful because he knows that he's trying to work on his marriage too. I wasn't trying to throw him under the bus like, oh, what happened to this? What happened to you just sending me money? I wasn't going to do all of that because more than likely that man was still going to be texting me and I wouldn't have seen him no more, but I was still definitely trying to get money out of him. So I wasn't trying to throw him under the bus too much because that's not my business. I'm here in the flesh. So you as his wife got to handle that situation the best way you see fit, sis. Like, I don't know. So she's trying to block the door. So I'm like, ma'am, like I said, I don't mean no disrespect. And she was like, yeah, you're disrespectful. I said, I'm not disrespectful, but I would appreciate it if you got out of my way. So he's telling her, like, come on, like, just move, just like let her leave. Like, you wanted her to leave. Like, Charlie's about to come pick her up. Like, she was like, no, you have Charlie. He drives my sons around in that car. He drives my sons around in that car, and you're gonna have her drive. So I felt like, y'all, at that point, I did feel like a 304. I did feel a little weird. So after I got outside, I was like, whoa, I get in the car. And at this point, Charlie, all of the times that, you know, from the first date, all of these times, that man has really never said nothing to me. He was like, oh. And I was like, oh, what? He was like, oh, you met Light. He was like, oh, you finally met Light. And I was like, oh, you knew that he was married? He was like, I knew that they were trying, like they were going through a separation, but they were trying to, you know, work on things. I was like, separation? So they're not divorced. He was like, they've been on and off for like literally the last 10 years trying to figure things out and all this. I'm like, but again, I can't be mad at the driver. I don't know the driver, and that's his man's. He's paying you. You know, I'm just a young girl, young little, pretty young thing that's getting money and time out of him. Like, I mean, I guess that's it. But I'm like, yeah, he was like, well, you see why, you know, he just wanted somebody to talk to because she is very impossible to talk to. I said, then why is he working on a marriage with her? Why does the driver say, yeah, well, it's cheaper to keep her? And I was like, wow, like this makes a whole lot of sense, y'all. I'm texting Lizzie going off. Mind you, she was on her own date at the time. So I'm texting her going off. Like, oh my God, he's not even divorced. He's separated. They're working on it, girl. Why she walk in? So she's texting me. She's like, oh my God, like sending me a whole bunch of emojis and stuff. She's like, I'm going to call you as soon as I get back home. I'm like, okay, y'all. It's like damn near 2 hours later. I finally get back to Pennsylvania. I get home and y'all, I just gardened and got in the shower, relaxed. I was laying across my bed. When I tell you Walter was blowing up my phone, I just wasn't responding. Like, I wanted him to I guess feel like I was like heartbroken or whatever. So I just wasn't responding. Lizzie calls me. She's like, what happened? So I sit there, y'all, and I walk her through the entire situation. I said, girl, I felt like I was in a movie. Like, I don't know what that was. I said, but this lifestyle might really not be for me because it's too much. That lady could have did anything to me. Like, anything could have happened. Like, he could have completely acted like I broke into his house or something. Like, I don't know. So I was like, yeah, girl, I think I'm going to take a break from this for a little while because this is just too much. And she was like, no, I understand, da, da, da. So after all of that, I kept talking to Walter, and he was still sending me money, you know, from time to time. But after a while, I was just like, you know, this is just not going to work for me. I was like, you know, you did playing a role. I was like, you know, you did hurt my feelings. Like, I don't understand why you had to lie to me. Like, you asked me what I was looking for. You're literally on an app to meet sugar babies who spend money on them whole time you're working on your relationship with your wife. And there's nothing wrong with you wanting to work on a relationship with your wife, but certain things I personally just don't feel like you should be doing or subjecting yourself or others to while you're working on a situation with your wife that you've clearly been with or have been with for over 20 years, probably longer than I've been born, longer than I've been alive. And he was like, no, I completely understand, but I really am sorry. I think me and her are just going to call it quits. I was like, no, you're not, because the fact that you pulled that lie out the hat, and of course, y'all, I was lying too, but I wasn't married. I wasn't even in a relationship at the time. You know, like, I wasn't like had a boyfriend and then trying to sneak around with having a sugar daddy and all of this. Like, I wasn't doing that because what man would be, some men are okay with it, but no ninjas that I was with or going to be dating was going to be okay with me having a sugar daddy, especially when the sugar daddy more than likely can give me more and pay me more and do more for me than you. You get what I'm saying? A lot of niggas is not going to be okay with that. So, y'all, after that, right, me and Lizzie, she would just at that point just tell me about her dates and stuff like that. And then sometimes I would still go with her freestyling. Like, she either would come out near me, we would go somewhere like where I lived at, or we would go a little bit toward Philly, or we would go up toward New York, or we would go to New York or Jersey, wherever. And we would just go to different bars and stuff. And, you know, again, freestyle, wear something cute, sit there, look all dainty, and, you know, have conversations. And some of those turned into like tricks, you know, money and stuff, and, you know, little, like I said, hair, nail money type of men. So after all of that, after a while, I ended up leaving the bank and I got a better job. So I was just like, I wasn't obviously making, you know, enough to be able to just pay myself $2,500 and buy myself a bag and all of this, but I was a little bit more content with what I wanted to do, and I wanted to actually date. Like, I actually wanted to, you know, be in an actual normal relationship. So I kind of took a break from that, right? So why did she ended up finally, I guess, sort of kind of meeting her big fish, right? So she ends up planning a trip. So he tells her, like, you know, pick you, and you can pick like 3 of your friends, and I'm gonna pay for all of y'all to go to Greece. So she was like, okay, cool. Like, okay, send me the money and I'm going to book all of our stuff and, you know, we'll do it like that. And he was like, no, you know, I just want, you know, I want you to be honest with me. If I'm going to fund this trip, like, is this your real name? She tells him, no, my real name is this. So I'm like, girl, what? So mind you, she was talking to this man probably for like really digging her claws into him, working on him for, had to be like at least 10 months to a year. So he was like, I really want to know your real name. So she tells him her real name. And he was like, okay, no problem. Like, I'm so glad you finally, you know, trusted me enough to, you know, tell me. So she hits me up. She was like, oh, girl, you want to go to Greece? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go to Greece. She was like, oh, well, Joe is going to sponsor it. Like, he's going to pay for all of us to go. And I'm like, okay, like, let me know. I'll send you my information so that way you can book the stuff, because that's what I'm assuming. She's like, well, he wants to book it. No. Automatically uninterested, automatically don't want to go no more. So she's like, oh, what you mean you don't want to go? Like, girl, this is what we've been waiting for. Like, I said, yeah, if he was going to give you the money, like, you price out everything, you pick a place, he don't know when, where, or why, and then we just go on a trip. She was like, well, I already gave him my real name. And she was like, you know, he's going to have our passport information and have all of this stuff. I don't know that man. And you're, again, going against everything, and you about to go to a foreign country and this man knows your real name. He could have somebody waiting on the other side for you. You don't even know. She was like, I feel like you're thinking too much into it. Like, I've been told you this is what I wanted. I was like, and that's fine, Lizzie. Like, if that's really what you want to do, by all means. I'm just not going to go on the trip. She was like, okay, girl, whatever. And she stopped talking to me. I didn't talk to that girl probably for like a month or so, right? And me and her was talking damn near every other day. I didn't talk to Lizzie for like a month. She ends up going on this trip. Right, she comes back and she was like, hey girl, I haven't talked to you for a while. And I was like, oh hey, because it wasn't no beef on my end. Like, I just didn't go on a trip. So I was like, you know, did you ever go to Greece? And she was like, oh my God, let me tell you what happened. So I'm like, well, what happened? So he didn't necessarily have somebody waiting for her on the other side, but like the Airbnb, she picked like 2 of some other girls that she was in the that she knew from the platform. So she was like, oh, she picked them, they go on a trip or whatever. He didn't necessarily have somebody waiting for them, but when they get to the Airbnb had cameras. She said the Airbnb was very like suspicious acting. Like, she said when she got to her room, why was he there? Y'all, why was this man Joe in the room? And he was like, oh, well, I thought I would surprise you. She was like, yeah, but this is supposed to be like, haha, a girl's trip. You know, I was just trying to hang out. He was like, no, like, we're going to have fun. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And she was like, okay, mind you, Lizzie had never hunched this man, y'all, right? Never hunched this man. Why? He got them, all of them, real lit. They get back to the house, and he basically cornered her in the room. Almost the same similar situation as the girl from way back when I first started, and I told you she had got locked into the man's hotel room. He had her locked in the room and had separated her 2 friends and had other men waiting, not necessarily waiting, but like when they got back, 2 more men came in to occupy her friends. And she was like, no, this is not what we signed up for. It was supposed to be a girl's trip, all of this. She ended up having to like fight this man off, all of this. And he was like, oh, after everything that I did, I paid for this trip. I did this, I did that. I didn't have to pay for you and your friends to come here. This is how you're going to act. You've been giving me the cold shoulder for months, and I thought that I would surprise you. And she was like, I understand that, but like, this is not what I wanted. She had to literally try to fight this man off, fight this man off, fight this man off. And he was like, you know what? It's okay. But tomorrow you're out of here. You're out of here. They wasn't supposed to leave for like another 3 days. He was like, no, tomorrow I'm paying for you to leave. I'm not going to just leave you strangers out here, but you and your friends are going to have to go. She was like, that's fine. So her and her friends all slept in the same room. Like, the men, I guess, ended up leaving. He stayed, and her 2 friends slept in the same bed in the room with the door locked. Next morning, they got their stuff. They came back home. And she was like, I'm just so sorry. Like, I apologize for everything. Like, you were right. Like, I was just blinded by this, blinded by that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess it happens. But, like, that's why I said you literally went against every single like you went against every single law basically that you set for yourself. And I don't understand, like, you wouldn't even do that here, but you would do it overseas. Like, that's insane to me. So I was just like, well, it is what it is. And then me and her, like, we kept the conversation, you know, kept the friendship going. But after I pretty much stopped altogether, like, I stopped paying a subscription, I just kind of stayed away from all of that, my little contacts and stuff. I stopped talking to the men and stuff. Like, I just didn't care anymore. It just didn't fulfill me anymore. And then eventually me and her lost contact too. And I changed my number a couple of times, and she moved on with her life. So if she ever happens to come across this video, girl, I hope everything worked out for you. I hope you finally landed, you know, your big fish, and you living in a big house somewhere in the middle of LA or Hollywood Hills or somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, y'all, I know the story was long and long-winded, but hopefully y'all enjoyed it. And if, like I said, if y'all want me to tell more sugar baby stories about, like, you know, a little bit more in depth of some type of situations, especially times I went out with Lizzie and stuff like that, comment down below and I got y'all. But yeah, y'all, I don't even know what time it is. I'm all looking at my wrist like I got a watch on, but I don't even know what time it is. But yeah, y'all, comment down below, tell me what y'all thought. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video, repost it, post it on your Instagrams, tag me. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. We are still on the road to 2K, and as always, I will see y'all in my next video. Peace.